This is the Soccer O.G, and next week I will be, barring any last-minute hurdles clipped, next week I will be able to talk to you about actual soccer games. Actual big-time sports returning, all due respect to the baseball leagues in Taiwan and the soccer league in Korea and baseball league. But the Bundesliga coming back is monumental news and happening so quickly. Again, this is a very fluid situation, but knowing the meticulous nature of how they do things in the Bundesliga and in Germany suggests that May the 16th, wake up early. It's going to be 6:30 Pacific time. There'll be several games starting then, but the feature game that we will all look at as the game that signified the return to major team sports will be the Ruhr Derby, Dortmund and Schalke, which is a great game. And it's going to be something we all have to sit and remember. Soak in every second, because this is something that you will tell your, not to sound too cliche, but you'll tell your grandkids. It's that kind of moment. We don't know where it's going to go from here, and sports are back, and we'll discuss how everything is on a razor's edge. Things could fall apart, and week 2, the league is back off. All eyes are on this. This is historically significant to another level. Quickly, as we look at all the protocol that the European leagues are doing, we'll start in Germany. Dynamo Dresden, Bundesliga 2 team, 14-day quarantine. They had 2 new cases. So that team's locked down for 2 weeks. Now, and I believe I mentioned this last week when I did the Soccer O.G., when you look at these players failing tests or being positive in the case here of COVID-19, you've got to accept it with comfort, because it means the system is doing what it's supposed to do. There are going to be people that are going to be held positive in this light. And unfortunately for Dynamo Dresden, they're going to be locked down. Anything of this nature, the whole team's going to be locked down as well. Spain, 5 players positive from the first and second division, which is not really a crazy number when you think there's 42 clubs. All asymptomatic, all in the final stages. Positive. England and Italy, testing is working. Brighton, a 3rd player diagnosed. There was a big meeting on Friday in the Premier League about the possible return of that league, and it just keeps circling around these bottom 6 teams that all have relegation in their crosshairs and whether they want to keep going. Brighton, Aston Villa, West Ham have all said something along the lines where, Brighton more, and not so much said something, but the players, that's neither here nor there, but obviously, Brighton, if they got to stay in the first division next season, not worry about any peril, that's not bad business. Hard to imagine the Premier League doesn't come back. But obviously, with the Bundesliga first, players testing will continue. And again, soak this in. These are one of those moments, I promise you, that we won't forget. UFC came back, and we talked about things being on a razor's edge. And the day before the event, remember, UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, for those who aren't aware, tried to come back for their UFC 249 card in April. Dana White did it in California. California very strict about anything happening, so it didn't. They got it booked in Jacksonville, Florida, a lot more lenient with regards to sports that are viewed as essential. So UFC was going to go, and the night before, the weigh-ins, Jacare Souza, who 2 days earlier on a Wednesday said that he had a relative that did test positive. And here it is, the weigh-in. He's there, I don't know why, facing off with Uriah Hall, his opponent, a little safer distance. There are moments on video where Jacare Souza is very close to other fighters, and you are screaming at UFC, don't screw this up. And how lucky did they get? And I think Jacare Souza, who obviously shouldn't have been there, but he alerted them. And I think we all, because it's not just UFC, we're all in this together, sport fans. Everything has to hit. If the UFC situation, and they went on with UFC 249, and it was a tremendous night of entertainment. I really enjoyed it. The main event, the co-main event, Francis Ngannou with a first-round knockout, 20 seconds. It was really good. And even they managed to fill, as best they could, the lack of atmosphere. It was intriguing television, no doubt about it. But if Jacare Souza and the Florida Commission says it's off, this whole thing goes to scraps. Everything takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks backwards. That's just the way it's going to be. Now, I think UFC got really fortunate here. And I mean, I woke up Saturday morning assuming I was going to read on Twitter that the card had been canceled because everyone's erring on the side of caution. So you can tell these commissions, they want the sports to go on. So they allowed this to go. And now in hindsight, you look at UFC, and this was the perfect situation. You showed how real the situation is, how it can be handled, and it does not expand from that one test. And now you know how it looks. And then they went on and had the card, and now they're going to have a couple cards here. But the doors are open now for more sports. Every hurdle, this is, again, but this is one thing when you have to mention UFC. They have to be aware. Dana White has to be aware. You are speaking on behalf of all sports. If you do it wrong, if you take one misstep, and we heard about the testing, it was fantastic. And again, they're going first, so you can excuse them if things aren't watertight. But you are on behalf of all sports. So whoever is in power in the Bundesliga, we got to feel confident what they can do, because what they do determines everything after this. If there is a stub toe, we go back. And there may not be sports for the year. It's that serious. Let's pick things up a little bit with a little feel-good stuff. Heung Min finished his 3-week military training top of his class after recording a perfect score in target shooting. He's a clinical finisher, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the target 10 out of 10 times. He got the Pilsung Prize for his accuracy. And now we can have him back here. We're talking about Hotspur. But that guy can finish. If only we could get Christian Benteke to do some Korean military service. It was a joke, because he doesn't hit the target. It's the best example I could come up with. I miss those guys that missed the target. Scored so many. You know who they are. All right, so that's a little joke. I want to close with this news that I heard, not really sports related. Guy Fieri. A guy I always been snickered at because of the silly hair and the shirts and the goatee and the dye job. Like, who is this guy? I will no longer speak poorly of Guy Fieri. I am on his bandwagon, and I am not getting off. And if you say something bad about Guy Fieri, we're going to have words. We're going to have a grown-up conversation. I promise you that. No more disparaging words from Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri raised $20 million for out-of-work restaurant employees. So he identified a cause. Restaurant employees decimated. Waiters, bartenders, across the board. And here he is causing this sort of comfort for these guys. What a guy. And I've been reading up on Guy Fieri, and his charitable work is top 1%. This is a guy who, he was a minister at a gay wedding. He helps the Special Olympics. He has a TV show that is basically there to highlight restaurants so they can get a little rub and show them in great lights. When he goes to those I'm sorry, I don't know what it's called. But when he goes there, he's showing these restaurants how good they are so people will visit them and go on their vacation. So Guy Fieri, you're the man. I went to guyfieri.com and I ordered a Guy Fieri shirt. I'm going to wear it next week. But you have another citizen of Flavortown, my friend. Remember we couldn't figure out who should be Time's Person of the Year? Oh, who's Time? I haven't picked up a Time magazine since I was 12. But who should be? Remember it was Greta Thunberg, the very politically active young Scandinavian girl who seems like a girl who's got a very bright future. But I'm already putting Guy Fieri's name in there. He should have it for this past year. But if he doesn't get it for 2021, then we're going to have a grown-up conversation as well. Guy Fieri, Man of the Year, Person of the Year. What a great dude. Let's go to Flavortown. No more bad stuff. This has been the Soccer O.G. I hope you enjoy this program and you find it informative. My mother keeps giving me a wonderful feedback, says she knows everything about the sport now by just watching this. So I do my very best to bring you accurate information with a little opinionated, a little editorialized, but there we have it. This is an exciting time, and I'm excited to share it with you. Please subscribe and tell your friends. Thank you. I've noticed you paid attention. Let's keep it going. Sports back!